jumped into? The chicks from the 6th.
Yep.
Yay!
Hello, ladies. Hi, my name is Karen Boite. Let's just start. Because we'll
Cool.
see if people join us, we'll be able to tell. Generally speaking, it takes people a few minutes, and it's a Friday night. It's
Yes,
also
like
bedtime.
15
So,
yeah.
we apologize for being late. It's Faith's fault.
Wait, what?
Like some pie.
You know, she liked the pie too much, and we had to wait till she finished it. So sorry about that. Hello, good evening. Oh, we see Nancy, we see Patrick, we see Sue, we see Morgan, we see lots of people. Good evening. My name is Karen Boite, and I am a member of the Ontario Autism Coalition, and this is
Faith Munoz.
This is
Angela Brandt.
and
Amy Moletsky / Llewellyn.
yep, and this lady here,
Mandy Warner. Amanda Joy.
Amanda Joy. Amanda
Really
Joy
not
bringing joy into everyone's lives. They have become known as the Chicks from the 6th. There are more members of the Chicks from the 6th, but these gals have agreed to sit down and do a Facebook Live and talk about their adventures at Queen's Park. And I'm going to ask them questions about what they have been up to for the past 3 or 4 months. They certainly have inspired a lot of people to become active in the OAC, and we thank them very much for their amazing contributions and their leadership. Okay, so let's start at the very beginning. A very good place to start. So you've got your moms.
Yes.
Your mom's to kids on the spectrum. There's a big change in February with the Ontario Autism Program. Faith, what happened when you heard the news that your son was not going to get the service you thought?
Well, my initial reaction from the February announcement, I was like scared. It was a lot of unknown. Then after the announcement, when the Fill Up the Galleries movement came out from Monique Taylor, that's my first experience that I decided I needed to go out there and try to figure out how I could help my kids.
So you saw a notice from Monique Taylor, who's an MPP.
Mm-hmm. And the OAC group, yeah.
And the OAC Facebook group.
Mm-hmm.
So had you been involved with the OAC before?
Well, I was part of the OAC, but I was not an active participant. Like, I used to sometimes go and check to see what was going on, but not really active until February.
Until February.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then what did you do?
Well, when the Fill Up the Galleries situation happened, I was scared. I knew no one in the community, to be honest. I decided to go, and I just decided to go and find out how I could help and my kid. So I went to Queen's Park, went in, sat there by myself.
We met at walking in.
Yeah, a lot of people, work together in groups and very friendly, but I really didn't know anyone until then.
We were on the same boat.
Yeah.
Neither of us knew anybody, and yet we met there.
Mm-hmm.
So you all met at Queen's Park that very first.
Well, I met
time?
Faith that very first day, but we only chatted for like a minute,
Mm-hmm.
and then she sat a few rows down from me, and then when she
Yeah, I'm front and center.
oh
yeah.
let her opinion be known, which I watched yesterday on the archives.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
That's when I said, "Oh, I remember her. We met. Her name is Faith. How fitting."
Can everyone hear us all right? Can we hear Faith? If we could get an amen or a thumbs up, we'd appreciate that. So you got a little bit of attention. Faith.
Yeah. I didn't.
What happened?
Well,
Would somebody else like to describe what they saw that day?
I saw her in the newspaper the next day.
You saw her in the newspaper.
I saw her a few rows down. I was actually sitting with
Okay, so
Wally.
what happened? What happened, Angela?
Like all of the opposition was asking questions and bringing up stories of different families, and we were all sitting there heartbroken as we listened to McLeod yelling back, this was the plan and it was going forward, and she was the minister that was going to be responsible for it. Ha ha, not.
We'll get to that.
And then very close to the end, I forget who was speaking. I think it was The finance
It
minister.
was the finance
It was
minister.
the finance minister.
Okay,
was
Vic
speaking,
Fideli.
And
Yeah.
all of a sudden, Faith gets up and she starts screaming. What did you say?
What did you say?
Okay, so
Can you recreate it for us?
sure.
Okay. Okay, so Minister McLeod is saying she's in charge, she's gonna fix this, 23,000 kids are on the waiting list, they're languishing, and Faith says,
You know, it was the initial reaction when everything was happening was just desperation, and we were crying. There was a lot of women around me who were like very moved and upset at what was happening, and I was upset too. But you know, then funny part, some of them were saying, "Let's say something. You get up and let's do it." I'm not gonna name whom, but you know, I didn't felt like doing that. But you know, and they were like, if someone gets up, just say something. We'll all go together. But and then
oh, no, better by yourself.
well, I didn't. It was just horrible to watch. That day was horrible. And then I think what got me was when the finance minister got up and started bragging. That's what got me. He was bragging how much money he was saving, and the numbers he said were close enough to the budget that they were releasing for our kids. And I think that's what got me,
So
and why I got pissed off.
It wasn't even McLeod talking
Well,
anymore.
it wasn't finance, the minister of finance,
Yeah.
Okay.
And
So
when,
Vic Fideli was talking about all the money that the province was going to be saving.
yeah,
And they're
With a
talking about
gallery full of mothers and fathers.
they're
Yeah.
spending money on what matters most, and
Yeah.
clearly our children don't.
I got up and I just screamed and I said, "How dare you? And you're saving money on the back of our children. Shame on you." And all of you who are clapping, because that's what made it even more disturbing to watch, is that they're talking about the cuts, and then you see all of the PCMPPs getting up, laughing and clapping and bragging. That's despicable. We're talking about children's services and resources that kids need for therapy and healthcare and education, and they're bragging. That was despicable. That's what did it to me. I could not stand by and not say anything. And that's when I got up and I screamed and I pointed at Ford and I said, "Shame on you." And he looked up and he was shocked. And Lisa McLeod looked up. I didn't know. I'd never been involved in this
And the
before.
Speaker of the House was
Yeah.
telling you to leave.
And
That rarely happens.
Yeah, the speaker is like, "Ma'am, you need to calm down or you're going to be escorted." And I'm like, "Shame on all of you."
Yeah.
And then he's like, "Please, someone remove her." And then I turned to him and I said, "I'm leaving." But then as I'm walking out,
I'm leaving!
I did.
But this was the best part. As she's walking out,
Yes.
I started screaming, "Shame, shame, shame." And you can hear it in the video. Oh my
Yeah.
God. And then the
Yeah.
photo. Oh my God.
That photo was.
We should,
Yeah, I should recreate it.
so that photo, my friend sent it to me, and you can see me. Faith is the center. You can see me in the
Yeah.
top left corner, and she points out to me. She's like, "Is that you?" I was like, "Oh, that is me." She's like, "It looks like you're crying, but you never cry." So,
It was very upsetting. Like, everyone in the galleries, we were crying. And here's the ministers who are supposed to represent us, who were elected by us.
Not
Well,
by
not
me.
by me, but they're elected by our writings.
Yeah.
And they're supposed to represent us, and all they're doing is laughing and bragging and clapping and acting like they don't give a damn. You know, that's
what's like every day
disturbing.
there. So.
Yeah, anyway.
So
that's
Amanda,
me.
are you allowed to do that at Queen's Park?
No.
So what are the rules when you go to Queen's Park? What's it like?
So when you first go in through the public gallery, it's a little different. We got a little familiar with
No, wait,
Queen's
so
Park,
what
so we
is it
really
like?
went
What
into it.
kind of rules are you supposed to follow there?
You line up, no political paraphernalia, no buttons that are on there. You have to put those away.
No
no
glasses.
cell phone,
No glasses, no cell phone.
You can't be naughty.
anything.
no
So
writing
you're-
material.
In the public gallery, you can't really bring anything with you. On my first day, I didn't even know this, but you can't even bring, like, if you have a shawl or a sweater or a scarf, they make you take that off because you can throw it over the thing.
think it
But-
depends on the security.
So there's no talking,
No talking, no
phones, no
clapping.
pictures,
clapping.
no
The worst for me
clapping.
was the clapping.
Definitely no
It's forced to
heckling
happen.
and telling the premier to go stick it somewhere.
No.
And
right?
they love
Definitely
hard
not.
with the crying. You have to cry silently and have.
Yeah.
You
Later
Trying
on,
to
they
figure
found
out
out
once
you really-
that was cool, and I
You can't do
couldn't
that.
have it.
Yes,
Because loud crying is a form of
Demonstration.
demonstration.
right.
Yeah.
Loud crying is a form of demonstration.
Leave your tears at home.
Or just cry silently.
So this is the reason why we're doing this Facebook Live. The Chicks from the Six have been going to Queen's Park for about 6 weeks straight, every day.
Since budget
Every
day,
day, since budget day.
April 11.
Okay. Since budget day, and they see a lot of things behind the scenes that the television cameras don't.
Oh.
So I want them to tell stories about their experiences. Miss Amy, tell me about the MPP tell me about a conversation that you had with an MPP that surprised you.
Is it a good way or a bad way?
Anyway,
Sam Oosterhoff.
Sam Oosterhoff.
Mm.
Okay, who is Sam Oosterhoff?
Oh.
We don't know
He's
now.
infamous.
We don't know now.
Sam Oosterhoff, he was the PA for education, and he was
And
infamous.
a
Parliamentary assistant.
PA? Did you know these things before?
I've always liked politics a lot,
Yeah.
so I mean, I knew a fair amount about them, but not to the degree that I do now.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons I love Queen's Park. Not to hear the crap that comes out of their mouths, but yeah.
So you had a conversation with Sam Oosterhoff. How did that come about? Like, how did you get to meet this guy?
You know, the way to get to meet pretty much anybody in Queen's Park is in the cafeteria.
Okay.
Go
Hang
ahead.
out around the cafeteria. I mean, we
Always.
don't disturb people while they're eating, or
No, just when I lined up to pick it up.
yeah, like when you're buying your food or buying your coffee, like, okay, nice to meet you, blah, 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 while they're walking in and out. You can stop, shake their hand, and say, it's nice to meet you, I would appreciate a meeting with you, and,
Yeah. You weren't scared to go up to a politician and just say hi?
No.
Okay.
They're people just like you and me.
Okay.
They eat, they sleep,
yeah.
they literally,
Well,
they're regular people like us.
I have to admit, the time we saw Top, I was scared.
Well, hold on.
That-
Spoiler.
That was the
Yeah.
only time
Spoiler.
that scared me.
Sam Oosterhoff. Okay. So what happened?
So I had a meeting with him, and I mean, this was within a week of when he had gone outside, to the pro-life protest and all those things he said, and I cried in the gallery that day because I was very upset by the response to
She
it.
never cries.
So yeah, I don't cry, but that day I was crying a lot. So I had a meeting with him, and I didn't meet with him to discuss his personal feelings on, I don't really care what somebody's personal opinions are on something like pro-life or anything. That's not why I was there to meet with him. I was there to discuss what his job is, and I was there to discuss what his job was, and that was being PA of education.
Right?
So he actually,
Kelly McNally says he's a child. Yes, he is.
He's young.
he is.
He's very young. Okay.
He is a child, and whether we or anybody else agrees with him having the position that he had or not, it was his job. And I was there to talk to him about what his job was, not what his personal opinions were on anything.
So tell me
or
what
anything.
happened. Tell me what happened when you approached Sam Oosterhoff. What was it that surprised you?
Well, he was very nice to me when I approached him, but when I got the meeting with him, I had a meeting with him and his assistant. They gave me longer than they had even allotted me for. And he seemed really interested in my daughter. He asked me a lot of questions. They took a lot of notes. They were asking me things I weren't even offering them. And they wanted to know what specifically they could do in education when it came to special needs. Like, they were asking me a lot of things specifically. So I was most surprised I say by Sam Oosterhoff, because I thought, I had a lot of preconceived notions about him that, that he just wouldn't care, or he'd be this arrogant child and whatever. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. But he and his assistant, they seemed, to have a genuine interest.
So you felt you had a good hearing?
I did.
Yeah,
I did. But I also, I said when I went to meet him, I'm like, I'm going to preface this by saying I'm a conservative. So please take everything I'm saying as conservative opinions.
Yeah.
But then I told him, like, even as a conservative, I think what you guys are doing is crazy.
Yeah.
The amount of cuts. and everything.
Angela, did you have an interaction with an MPP that surprised you, that you didn't expect?
They were all surprising, to be honest.
What stands out in your memory?
Well, it wasn't really a meeting, it was more of a chance encounter, and it was just kind of funny, actually. We were in the basement in the cafeteria, and I was with Faith and some other moms, and I can't remember who, but it was Lisa Thompson, and she was walking by, and she
So
was,
Lisa Thompson was the Minister of Education.
yes, she was.
Yeah.
She's not anymore.
Sorry, Lisa.
And she was holding this like folder or binder, kind of, right? You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, we were coming out of the elevator.
And she was kind of
We
holding
bumped
it
into
up to her, and I kind of bumped into her. I should mention I'm about 6 feet tall, and she's not more than 5. So
Oh, yeah.
I tower over
Yeah. So Angela,
Let's go.
all right, Lisa, hi. Okay.
Hello, Miss
Hello.
Thompson. And
Yeah.
so, we just asked her, we just spoke to her and asked her for a meeting when we could talk about special needs in the school boards and in the education system.
What?
And she was holding this folder.
That's what Tony just said, sorry.
Oh my God, that sounds like breaking news. Breaking news, guys!
What?
You
Wait,
resigned.
What?
Tony, thank you.
4 years.
When did this happen?
I don't know, Tony, like, give us the goods. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
So anyway, she's holding this folder, and she said, "Well, I have these questionnaires here that I'm going to go through." And I said,
Recommendations for the.
and I said, "Well, I'm a statistician. I'd be happy to look them over for you." And then she clutched them closer to her chest, like a baby. And then she walked up really quickly. And I remember looking at Faith and he said, "Did she think I was going to snatch them from her or something?"
Give me that.
So I don't know. I think the thing that surprised me the most was like they have this idea that we're some crazy people or
Remember
something.
Greg Rickford
Yeah.
in the elevator, the Minister of Energy?
Okay, tell us
We
about the
walked
Minister of Energy.
We walked into the elevator one day just to go upstairs to Monique Taylor's office when we came in. We saw him in the elevator. We're like, "Good morning," and he just gave us the dirtiest look. Would not even greet us. Nothing.
Oh, he's not the only one that does that.
No, but we were
I know
like
that
within a
Sam
couple
was
feet
Yeah.
of
We-
him. Would not even look at us.
I have a thing of any MPP I meet, I'll say good morning, good afternoon, and as I'm walking the hallways, because they're people, and I'm just saying, I'm there for political reasons. You might piss me off inside the gallery, but if they're, I'm still polite, and I say good morning, good afternoon, and they're forced to say hi, good morning, but he's one of them that should look us up and down, turn around, and like,
Oh, what was his name again?
Greg Rickford.
yeah.
Oh.
He's a Minister of Energy and Indigenous Affairs, which to me are like
That's
two
express.
conflicting.
Yeah.
I don't
Well, there
understand
were a lot of ministries that got smushed together. Not just
that. Yeah,
for
but
just
that sounds like a conflicting,
MCCSS.
a
Yeah.
conflicting thing to be a minister of both.
And both of those things.
Like, I had a completely opposite interaction. We ran into Sam Oosterhoff one time and he completely avoided us. Oh, sorry, I was
Yeah,
just
inner
talk.
Yeah.
We ran into Sam Oosterhoff in the hallway after we got out of the elevator that one time, Faith and I, and
Yes.
he was walking like right in front of us,
Oh,
almost
so-
arm's distance.
So this was after the
Yeah,
thing that he
after
went
the
outside for the pro-choice, pro-life,
Yeah,
pro-life. And a couple days after, so we're coming back to the floor of the cafeteria, funny thing, and he's there sitting, eating on the side bed, like couches, and he sees us coming, starts picking up his stuff, and he's like starting to leave. And
And Faith is shouting out, you know, I read this one time about Dr. Seuss really disliking it when people use that quote wrong about, you know, a person's a person no matter how small, because he wasn't necessarily on that side of that fence, you know? And I'm like, oh, really? I didn't know that. She's like, you know, and so we're just talking very loudly so he can hear us from behind him that we were not happy about his statements at that. And his ears, we could only see him from the back, but his ears went red. And he started walking faster and faster, and then he eventually ditched, and just before the cafeteria is another hallway to go upstairs to legislation, and he actually ran up the stairs and like tied his shoes and just kept running with his like stuff and his lunch. He was fumbling, and Faith and I are just giggling away because we're like, why are you so scared? We're just saying something.
Did the MPPs recognize you guys?
They all the time.
Yeah.
We see people in the galleries, we see people walking down the street, we see people going to Starbucks. Yeah.
At the luncheon I was at with Caltha the other day, there were a bunch of MPPs. They're like, oh, hey, we haven't seen you in a while.
We see people
Transportation as we're walking down the sidewalk.
Yeah.
So yells out, help our children!
Did anybody approach you?
please.
Amy, did anybody ever approach you for a chat?
Yes.
Oh, when we were at the luncheon the other day, Mitzi was there. And
Mitzi
she walked
Hunter?
up. Yeah.
Former Minister of Education
Yeah, and
under the
she
Liberal government.
was, you know, saying hi to people at the table. She's like, oh, hey! You know, like, so, you know, she came up and shook our hands and said hello.
So do they
We have
notice?
regulars.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, like, look, every...
Dr. Jill almost always came over.
Oh, yeah,
For sure.
Larma
and
Lindell.
Laura, Andrea Horvath would come sit down pretty often.
Jamie.
Joel Harden
Joel
would actually
Harden.
come sit with us sometimes, even in the public gallery. And
Michael
gallery.
Cotto.
Michael Cotto has gotten very familiar with
Logan
us.
Canapathy when he would
Logan,
walk in, because
yeah.
he's on the opposition side.
He actually invited
He
us
would
to
come
a
and
fight.
wave to us all
The
the time.
leaders, I'm so horrible with names. He sits right beside Kathleen Wayne.
Oh,
Mike Schreiner.
Yes, sorry. Yeah,
No, Fraser.
John
Fraser.
Fraser, thank you.
John
Yeah,
Fraser.
he also comes all the time and says that.
Yeah.
Even before we started getting the passes to sit in the visitor area,
Yeah.
if we were in the top, sometimes he would come to the top and say hi.
Yeah.
He's one of those guys that
And
says hi.
and sometimes even to the second degree of getting to know their PAs and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I mean, we got to know through Mike Schreiner. We got to know Ajit,
Yes.
and he actually has become chatty with us and stuff too.
Have any of them ever asked you questions about why you're there?
Yeah.
So what did they ask you?
Why are you here? Well, you're talking PC MVPs or
Anyway.
because, you know, the MVP doesn't ask why we're there. They know. And the liberals, they know. Even the
So-
Green Party, he knows.
Funny story, speaking of them asking about why we're there and approaching us and stuff. So one time I was there, on the day that there was the strike for, on May Day, and they were setting up the whole protest outside of the building, and I stepped out for a smoke. And a lot of the times when you stand in the smoker's corner, that's the other social spot where you end up running into people. And this lady walks past me, and she's, you know, holding
that's a
her
good one.
stuff
Take
and
notes.
everything, and she's like got all this stuff to say.
Yeah.
She's being very quiet and everything. And then she just kind of walks up to me very casually, and she says, "So, do you know what it is they're doing here right now?" And I said, "Yeah, I think they're setting up for a protest." And she goes,
For the health
for
protest.
the healthcare one. And she goes, for what though? And I said, I think it's for healthcare. And she goes, oh, well, you know, I think it would probably be better money spent if they actually put it into, you know, their own healthcare and everything like that, than
What money?
protesting outside. And I was like, sure. I mean, I don't think that's really doable right now with the cuts and stuff. And she was like, "Poof," and like scoffs me off and walks inside. So I'm sitting there, I come upstairs into
She didn't know who
Monique's
it
office.
was.
I had no idea who it was. It just seemed like a total stranger to me. And I come in and I'm like, this crazy lady just came up to me with like, you know, this attitude about like, why are they doing that? They shouldn't be protesting and stuff and venting about it.
Hold
We go
on.
downstairs
Coming.
and we sit in the members gallery, and as we're just getting comfortable, people are just starting to line up. They just start, speaker announces everyone. This lady that I had just run into outside comes walking in with her file and sits down in the Ministry of Labor's position and I slap Faith because I'm like, that's her, that's the lady, and like I can see the speaker going like trying to see who's shouting out like that. Face like shh, and I look over and
Spit out your
she
drink.
stops and looks at me
I'm just laughing because she got warned.
from her
Damn,
seat.
you can't be pointing.
From her seat, she's like looking at me like, who's this lady yelling? And I'm like, that's her. And she looks right at me and she's like, and then the speaker's like, so everyone here needs to be quiet and let legislation happen. And I'm like, that's her, guys. Like, so it was just really crazy to have been so surprised to be like, so then you get into the discussion amongst us of like, so did she actually know and just crying at me, or did she not know and just is that uninformed? Like, you know, exactly. So that created some interesting discussion.
You mentioned protests.
Mhm.
How many protests were going on outside
Every day.
Oh, almost every day.
every day? So what?
Sometimes twice a day.
What? Sometimes twice a day.
Yeah, because the baby slowed it to like early morning, and then in the afternoon there was another one. And
Can
then
you list some of the protests that can you remember? Health. Education.
Obviously, the pro-life one.
The pro-life one.
There
Yeah.
was the one for
Mayday.
cats for legal aid, which it was a big one.
Yeah,
There was,
Mayday was a
yeah,
big one.
there was also, there was
Legal
one
autism
for opioid overdose sites, that one
Yeah.
was another big one too, in regards to like how people being affected. The youth, the education youth, the standout they did when they what's it called? They left the school and they did a
Yeah,
protest, the
they all went
students, the
walkout.
walkout, thank you.
Which is
That
the one
one-
with the guillotine. Which one is that?
That one
That
was
was
amazing.
That was Mayday.
Right.
Correct. Yeah, that was the big one.
Yeah.
That was the big
And
one.
Faith and I were there that day, recording on live, and never once saw what they were talking about in the
No.
government. So
Lisa exaggerated.
Yeah.
that was a
Sorry.
super exaggeration.
And can you hear the protesters when you're
Oh,
inside?
yes.
yeah.
Yes. I'll never forget the first time I actually heard. I was standing with Faith actually,
Yeah.
and we were sitting inside, and they were talking and arguing and stuff, and we could hear everybody like, yeah, really loud.
Yeah.
And Faith and I actually had a hard time, not because you're not in the gallery, you're not allowed to interact or protest or anything. So her and I were like squeezing each other's hand, going like, "That's them, that's them."
That's our
And
people.
really, those protests, they really are a big motivator for us when we're sitting in there trying not to get kicked out and trying to keep our temper calm and trying to listen and understand and have that faith to know that what we're doing is making a difference. Because you start to feel really hopeless after a while, and you sit there and you watch the same lies and the same garbage every day, and you get emotional and you get depressed and you're brought down, and then someday you're sitting in there and you're feeling really sad and want to leave, and you hear like "Wah!" from outside, and Faith and I like grab each other's hands and we're both going, that's our
our
both trying not to get out of our seat.
That's
you
our
know?
peeps.
Yeah,
That's our
people. It's the sense of like, you know, like for me, there's that right now I'm being very strong with the autism file, but there's many other parts that also move me to like say, you know, you need to make change in other areas. You know, there's the health, there's the education, there's the OSAP, there's you know, the childcare. There's so many different type of, you know, things that like motivate me. You know, and as I was inside Christian period, and then I walked out, I would try to stay and hang out and be like, yeah, you know, Fred's a liar.
It's the old saying, there's strength in numbers isn't a lie. Like the more people you have, the more power and motivation.
So when you hear the crowds outside, what effect does that have on MPPs on the inside? Can you-
Oh, the NDP are like, do you hear that?
Yeah.
Do you
They're
hear
awesome.
that?
They feel
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
They feel it?
Everybody
Yeah.
feels it.
Yeah.
I think one of the parts that
PCs
people
look
don't
scared.
get to see, people don't get to like see
Yeah,
in
what
the
do people
camera.
not see?
Well, the thing is the camera, and then you know they play this
Heckling.
magical
Yeah.
game.
People do not
Oh,
see
yeah.
the heckling, and the heckling can
Yeah.
be bad.
And
You
the
didn't see
Twittering.
Sam Hoff's middle finger the day he got called out.
He does
So
this a lot.
MPPs giving each other a
yeah.
finger
They
like
keep
Telling
that?
each other,
Yeah.
what are
And
you
it
doing
started
here?
with chin
Yeah.
scratching, and then it turned to every single person, and then the speaker finally.
Who
called
did
him
that?
out. Sam
Foster.
Hoff.
Sam Lindstrom, so
Yeah.
giving the finger to the opposition.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
What else
between us-
what does the camera not see? So we can watch Queen's Park debates
They're
live.
always
Yeah.
like giving each other shit all the time.
Oh,
But you
Yeah.
can't,
And
you
it's loud.
can't, you
I don't
can't
think people
hear.
realize how loud it
Well, you can't hear what people are saying that are not on camera, like
Yeah.
when you're watching on TV. But
Yeah.
when you're in the gallery, there was
You
one
can hear
day, McLeod was just screaming, which
That
wasn't-
week, that day, or
no, she was actually screaming at
She's pretty
I always forget his name, Taryn.
oh,
Terrace.
Terrace.
Terrace Natachak.
Yeah.
She was screaming at him, "You're an idiot! You're a goddamn idiot! You're so stupid!" The cameras didn't pick any of that up, but I can hear it.
But you
Very
hear
clear.
it clear as
Yeah.
day.
yeah.
Yeah. What else did the cameras not show?
That they're sitting there on Twitter
Yeah.
and like getting up and like playing musical chairs and
Yeah.
talking
Or
to
for
each
going for
other,
a smoke break.
leaving, like
Yeah.
they
I
just
think-
spend the whole time messing around.
My first impression at Queen's Park was exactly that, because you have this idea before you get there of what it's going to actually be like,
A certain
being
level
like
of
what you
decorum.
see on camera. And then you get there and it is worse than a high school classroom. Worse than a public school classroom.
Kindergarten.
Like,
And a lot of it is from the PC side.
and Lisa
Yes.
McLeod
The
was
NDPs are actually, where they are like laughing. They say, "Can you hear them outside?
almost
Do you really think people are, not paying attention to what they're saying?" So they'll be making this kind of comment
Even the
to bring
speaker,
awareness.
the speaker
gets so
even
mad.
says to them sometimes, is like, are you aware of our guests
have
are
guests.
here?
Yeah, we have
like,
children in here.
they're embarrassing themselves.
Yeah.
And the speaker has to constantly remind themselves, like, guys, we have people here.
I
Yeah,
just
and
remember
children. There's
coming
children
in,
in the galleries.
and my first
It's
impression
I have
was
to
so
remove Jeremy one day.
frustrated because I sat down and my first day wasn't the same day that you had that day. where you
Yeah,
got
so
kicked
tell
out.
us about your
My
first day.
first day was the motion movement
Oh.
day.
Yeah. I was
and
there.
I'd actually talked to you previously. You were
Yeah.
the first person I met in the OIC. And so I was there kind of very reserved and quiet. I didn't know anybody. I came in, I saw you at the front of the line, but I was still really shy, so I didn't even really like wave or anything. I think if I remember right, I sent you a Facebook message and was like, "I can see you," and then I was like scared that you'd think it was creepy. So I was like,
I did. I thought it was
so
creepy.
she was like, "Oh my
I did.
God."
That's why I didn't sit with you.
Yeah.
I was on the other side.
So I sat down and then I was sitting on my own. I didn't know Faith yet, and I was sitting on my own. Faith was kind of in the middle. I was in the back, and that was also the day that I met Crystal for the first time.
Yeah.
Tangerine. And Tangerine.
Tangerine. Hello, Tangerine.
That was my first day, and I was sitting there, and I remember they were going through like some steps, and Faith got really emotional at one point. We started to cry.
It's just like keep going with this whole
It was
thing.
the same thing.
Yeah, it's just
You know.
ridiculous. And I think everyone thinks I'm like a crier normally.
No.
I'm not.
No, but really though. Like, in all fairness, for people who don't know us, no, you're not. You're actually really, really strong. Like, she actually doesn't cry that often. But I find like, seriously though, maybe likes to express her
I
face. So
think I
they
went
always
like
like
that.
to cling on
Yeah.
whenever she does get emotional and make that like a
Yeah.
thing, but it's not.
I think crying is a sign of strength.
It is.
It is.
To be
It is.
honest,
But you
to have the
you
courage,
hold
to have the
together.
courage to cry when you. I have to say, I went and
She's
sat.
crying.
There was some big boo-hooing going on.
And I came over because
Yeah.
I have a problem. I'm a hugger. And
Yeah.
I didn't know Faith yet, but I saw her crying and I can't sit next to someone crying and not do something. So I like jumped up and like came over to her row. Didn't even know her. I'm like putting my arm around her. I'm like, "It's okay, you're gonna be okay," you know. And then Karen came in, saved the day on the other side, and she's like, there, and that's when I was like, okay, I don't
That's right.
actually know this lady, and this lady obviously does, so
It's
I'm gonna let
No, we were all
We're
hugging,
together.
and Laura was
Um,
across the gallery doing
yeah.
a heart
Yeah.
sign,
And
doing
then-
hearts and.
While we were
Yeah.
talking, they did the motion passing, and when they called that, he was like, "It is my opinion that the eyes have it."
You're so
Faith grabs my hand. I heard you stand up on the one end and go,
And-
"Holy shit!"
Yeah.
And then Faith grabs my hand and she stands up, and her and I are both going in the air.
Yeah.
And nobody really knew what it actually meant because
Yeah.
legal
We
jargon
just
is
knew
so
we won
confusing.
something.
We just thought,
We felt
and-
like we won something.
I'll never
It was
forget
going
it.
to help. We really thought We
Yeah.
did it. This
Yeah.
damn thing is over.
I-
But then,
I didn't know Tangerine or Crystal at that time, but
I
they were
didn't.
sitting down in the very front. And I had only ever done one live video where I was like, kind of calling out Lisa McLeod for not showing up to our protest because of her threats. And I that was it. But I guess they saw that. And so I'm standing there, I had no idea who anyone was, and Crystal and Tangerine stand up, and Tangerine goes, Amanda! And I'm like, yes. And I'm like looking around, and they're like, who's calling my name? And she's like, hi. I'm like, hi. She's like, what just happened? And I'm like, I don't know. And I look at you, and I'm like, what just happened? You're like, I don't know. And I'm like, Faith and Faith is like, I don't care, it's good. Like,
it just
so
sounded good.
I went out in the hall and had a powwow. But that day, I expected this level of professionalism when you go, because they are paid extremely well and they are in positions where they need to be professional, and yet there is none. And I sat there, and Lisa McLeod, every time she sat down, she's like flops in her seat, no backup, nothing. She
She's always
uses
showing,
profanity
like,
all
her
the time.
phone, and
She
like,
sits on the phone and makes jokes. She points at Faith and I and Amy all the time. And they make little secrets and jokes about us and stuff, and it is hurtful. And they sit on their phones, and like that first day I was sitting behind the Conservative, and I could see down, and I can see they're not even like, doing social media to look at their stuff to like see what they should say or anything. They're full blown shopping and just hanging out. And when I was in school, I would suspect if a teacher is talking to you, you're supposed to listen to them. So in QP, you would expect, if I'm Lisa McLeod, I'm talking to you as an opposition, that you would be looking or paying attention to me. But when people are talking to the opposition side, they almost always are looking and paying attention. But when people are talking to conservative side, they get up, they hang out with their friends, they put their back to them, they don't even hear what they're asking them. So that's how we were always getting so frustrated that they're sticking to their talking points, because we know a lot of the time when you're there, when they answer a question, that they're not answering the question that was asked. They're quite literally reading from their paper, because they know.
The funny part is that even when they ask questions between them, they're like this on the paper.
Yeah.
So to the Minister of Finance, what is this? The Minister of Finance get up. Well, I want to tell the people that we're doing this and this, and it's all prescripted.
Faith and I always go, it's commercial time.
People may not know that the beer is not owned by Canada.
We've said this 85 times today, but just to let you know,
I'm pretty freaking sure we know.
That's their commercial break.
They
That's their
have-
commercial break.
Then they look
That's
up
how
a
they
camera
themselves.
and they talk to the people at home.
Yeah.
I want you to understand.
yeah.
And the speaker is like, please direct the question to me. And they're like, this is so rude. This is one
So
of
they're
the
performing for the camera
Yes,
always.
yes.
It's
It's
like
like
watching a
magical
soap opera.
chairs. And as soon as the camera starts pointing, they like sit down and they act like. And then they turn around and they're getting to their phones and they're doing this thing.
And
they're
then yelling
chit-chatting.
across at the opposition, swearing at them, or like,
Swearing at them.
Oh,
they
always.
swear.
Yeah.
Always.
I remember one day when we were there,
They
there
heckle
was
each other
there
hard.
was 8 warnings
Yeah.
given.
To the PCs.
And that was the day the
and one
speaker
morning-
went
To the
like,
people in charge.
seriously,
Yes,
yes.
they are getting more.
And warnings are like yellow cards in a soccer game. One more and you're out.
Yeah.
Like,
One
It
day,
was ridiculous.
Ford got even the thing that is
Ford got
disturbing
told
thing.
off,
Yeah.
by the speaker.
But I think one of the things that bothers me the more is that how schools, I just read something, Laura, is like, that's why I don't bring my students to QP anymore. I don't bring
Yeah.
her, because, there's a lot
So
of
many times
schools.
they get up and take the kids out.
Yeah, there's a lot of, the students are there, they're bused to come and visit Queen's Park.
Yeah.
And while they're there, you can see the PCs using them as props.
Oh, yeah.
That pisses me off, you're using children. And I want the children to know that we're doing what,
Yeah.
for.
And then the teachers will just take them out.
They're like,
That one day
Yeah.
where Lisa Thompson pointed out to the girl who did the YouTube poem about her education, and then somebody in opposition asked her a question, and she points out the girl who's sitting like right next to Faith and I in this public gallery,
she was
and she's going, I want you to know how important, your art is, and that you continue with this passion. You're so good at it and everything. And Faith and I are looking at each other being like, you just cut the arts.
Yeah.
are you like,
That's the
are you
big joke.
serious right now? And she's like, you know, and Lisa Thompson always had this big smile.
Man.
Like, I really don't like all the rhetoric. Like, that was just her go-to for everything. She didn't have an answer. It was just the rhetoric.
Sometimes they ask the same question. I noticed that.
Okay.
Sometimes they ask the same question in a
Yep.
different day, exact same question,
Yep.
exact same answer.
Bruce told me something one time that has stuck with me forever.
Bruce.
Bruce McIntosh.
Express
Macintosh
mental
Kirby.
ability.
Yeah.
Hear that? Macintosh
I just
Kirby.
associate the two of you together.
Yeah.
Bruce McIntosh, and I asked him
No,
this
Macintosh Kirby, I like that.
for a little
I like
while.
it, yeah.
Ownership.
I'm not good at speaking, okay?
You're wonderful at speaking.
I talked to Bruce one time, and I was complaining actually about that whole situation, and Bruce said something that really stuck. I think you were there that day, and he said, it's not called answer period.
Yes.
It's called question period. They don't have to answer the question.
Yeah.
And that always stuck
That's
with me.
right.
Every time they talk now, and I listen to it, I always go, there was no answer in that statement.
So why go? What's the point? If you're gonna go and listen to
Because
people
they can't
bicker,
run away
Well,
from
Well, I
it.
gotta give Lisa
So why did you
McLeod
go?
somebody to
Why?
point
Why
at
did you
and
go?
joke and make stories about.
Angela, why do you go there?
Why did I go there? Because
Yeah.
I wanted to see their face in person, and I wanted them to see my face in person. That I'm a human being, and my child matters to me, and I'm there, not just for my child, but for everybody's child. This program change affects me less than others because my son is older. But on February 6th, when an announcement was made, and like I said, my friends, my family, they rarely see me cry. But that day, I wept. I sat on the sofa and I wept for at least an hour because I wasn't so sad for my own child. I was sad for an entire generation of young children with autism. And I just showed up so that they knew that it's having an effect.
Yeah.
It's having an effect on real people, on real families.
We're reading your comments as we go along. If you have a question, please feel free to interject. Tangerine, is that a question from Tangerine?
No, Tina.
From Tina. Tina says,
It is
Yes,
very
it
hard
not.
not to scream at them.
Yes,
Yes,
very.
it is very hard.
Oh, so
Faith
hard.
actually started bringing stress balls for me. Because her and I would sit there and like the whole time.
And then I have been having so much anxiety, you know, and sometimes you hear them go crazy, but then
Lemon balm.
something,
Lemon
no,
balm.
before
That's
the
where she got the
lemon bomb
nickname.
came, before the lemon bomb came, something that actually got me is the NDP and the Liberals telling me, let us do the yelling, you know, it's good that you're here because they're seeing that, you know, you're holding them accountable. So I appreciated that, the fact that it's somehow me being there, it was being viewed that way. Like, oh, she's back here again. No, they actually took it the way I wanted. But they said, let us do the yelling. Let us work. We have the questions. They are our voices. So when the things are happening, even though you might not see it on camera, you know, if while the PCs are answering or not answering the questions, the NDP are saying, like, really, you're gonna go there, look what you're doing, you're hurting these people, look over there, and you look them in the face, like, and you really stand by what you're saying, is this what you got elected for? So the NDP are calling them on it. The Liberals are calling them on
being
it.
there gives the NDP and the Liberals some sort of fuel to go to with that, because I'll never forget that time. We were all actually there that day when Couteau actually was sitting in the front, and he was asking a question. Lisa McLeod started yelling something,
Yeah,
and he points at us and he goes, "Look at them. They're here every day. Do they look happy to you?" You know, and it was the first time we were there that we got called out during QP, where we were like, yes. And I remember I almost got kicked out that day because he said that. And I did lean over to Lisa McLeod and I went, yes, please do ask me. Ask me. I would love to talk to you and actually tell you how I feel right
so one day you did speak to Lisa McLeod.
Yes, we did.
Okay, so
Alright.
tell us about what that happened.
I was gonna say, where's all the popcorn memes?
Yeah.
So I think that one starts with me.
That one.
Okay.
Because
start with you.
Okay, so with the SSAH, this is how my journey started at question period.
Special services at home.
Yes, SSAH, the budget was being held back, the funds not being released. And I was really struggling to try to pay for the services my kid needed. And, the fear of if I pay for them, I will not be reimbursed, and them holding that back. So I was trying to get that, get them to release those letters and those funds out and everything. So I was asking for my SSAH funds. That's how this whole thing started for me, going to QP every day. The 1, 2, the 3, the 4, and everything. And it turned into one day.
When you say QP, you mean Queen's Park, not
Yes.
QP.
Yeah, question period. Yeah, question
Union
period.
representing
Yeah,
the
both
Oh,
Chinese.
no.
Okay.
Yeah, question period at Queen's
Question
Park.
period is
Yeah.
QP. See, they've got the,
It's just like
they've got the
it's like-
jargon.
So,
Question period, so not Queen's Park, question period.
question
QP.
period, going for question period. Sorry. And then my kid made a letter for Lisa McLeod. And I couldn't tell my kid I can't pay for your soccer. And one day I was so upset that, that I couldn't tell my kid I can't pay for your things. So I just gave him a piece of paper and I said, write her a letter, ask her. And I wrote her name and he did. He said, hi, Lisa McLeod. Can I please go back to soccer? Thanks, Excel Jeremy or something like that. So he wrote this little thing by himself, and then I was gonna take him with me so he could give it to her. But then I was afraid that she would be rude to my kid the same way she is rude in the house, and so I decided not to. So one day I'm upset there, and it turned out that the letter ended up being pulled into Andrea Horvath, thank you.
Laura
Yeah,
Melinda,
attention.
that's how.
Yes, Laura Melinda saw me crying, and she came and talked to me. And then as I was talking to her, I said, well, I wanted to bring my kid. She wrote a letter asking for help. And then she's like, she did what? Well, maybe we can get the letter passed to, to her in the house. Would you be okay with that? And I said, sure, anything I can do, to help my kid right now. I'm desperate. So Laura Melinda, she was so sweet. She checked on me, make sure it was fine and everything. And then I spoke to another people and NDP, and they read the letter in the house, and then gave it to Lisa McLeod. And then after that, she tried to pull me out of question period to talk to me. And
Okay, so,
And Jill Andrew was there and sent her no witness.
yeah,
okay, and who's that?
NDP, Dr. Jill.
Okay. So she approached you and she wanted to talk to you. What happened?
Well, she didn't approach me. She sent staff,
Yes.
Queen's
Okay.
Park staff, saying the Minister of Children's Services seems to want to meet with you.
She
And-
says she's waiting out for you in the hall.
Yeah.
Waiting for you in the hall.
That scared us.
She's waiting for
She's
you in
gonna
the
be, like,
hall.
hanging out in the hallway for combo.
Okay, sounds like 3 o'clock high. All right. Okay, she's waiting for you in the hall. So what happened?
So when she said that, I literally just grabbed the first person that was right beside me, and I got up, and then I took
So who was the first person?
Amanda was
Amanda.
there. We were all there.
And I was
I wasn't there that day.
Who was there?
Me and Nico were still
Nico?
behind.
Yeah, and then someone else was with us that day. I can't remember who.
I don't know.
Anyway, we have so many people come and go like days in between. But
There are
Amanda
many
went
chicks.
with me, and
Nico
we went
is
and
on
we met
it.
I'm more
Lisa.
like a head. I'm the head.
Yeah,
So we,
I'm a jerky.
Anyway, go on.
Yeah.
Go on, Faith.
so we went into the private offices for the PC area, and Lisa was there, and then she was very businesslike. And at one side of
It's on video.
well, she just sat down and said how
She
can I
just
help
was
you?
like sitting there and like,
Yeah.
so what can I do for you guys?
Yeah.
Okay. And what'd you say?
Well, I would like to talk to you. No, she went on to say, well, I'm very short in time. I have 15 minutes and you know,
5.
5, she said?
5 minutes.
Look, I'm doing homework further than this. So 5 more
5
minutes,
minutes,
how
right.
can I help you and stuff? And then I told her, due to the time constraints, I would like to get another team meeting with you, to talk about what's happening with my son. And Lisa said, okay, well, just tell my staff, let's take some notes into how to get this started, and then we can arrange that meeting.
Yeah.
So I was kind of interested to see how she would actually help us, especially since she's like the Minister of Children's Services. I was expecting her to do something for us. But as I'm telling her what's happening with Jeremy, with the SSAH, with the OAP, with his education, we're having problems with mental health. Like I told her all that right there, just as points. I didn't want to dive too much. And then I gave Amanda the floor to introduce herself because her story, I thought it was important to share too.
Well, at that time, we were making a good team in that sense because Faith was coming from a position of someone who was in service, and I was coming from a position who had never had services. And the whole thing that got me started into going to QP was my younger son's diagnosis. So he was diagnosed after April 1st. So I couldn't get him on.
So Lisa says, how can I help you? You gave her a quick list of what's happening.
Yeah.
And what you were telling her about your town hall, the languages.
After
That
that
was
came right
after.
after.
Yeah, and then what did you say? What happened?
She asked me my name and everything, so I told her my name. And I started to give a little bit about what was going on with me when we got pretty much cut off. She had to get going and everything, and we said we were grateful that she was willing to meet with us. And she said, well, I'm really happy for once to finally be able to meet with you guys because I haven't been able to meet with families. I've been receiving so many threats, and I'm escorted to and from everywhere I go all day long that I haven't had the freedom to be able to meet with families. That's the real reason why I haven't met with families. And Faith and I, in our minds, both didn't want to say anything that would get her against us,
We want to build a bridge, not burn it, so
yeah,
we stay
so we
quiet.
stayed quiet, but in both of our heads, like we had just saw her the other day after the budget release, leaving and walking to the subway
No
station.
escort,
on her cell phone,
no
escort.
nothing.
So both of us were like, yeah, so Faith kind of chuckled a little bit, trying not to, and I just said, yeah, it's a really great feeling to be free, isn't it? And so she didn't know what to say to that and kind of took it a moment. She says, well, do you guys want a picture?
No, before that, hold on.
Tangerine is asking if we'd like to talk to
And-
We'll get there.
Yeah.
Okay, Tangerine.
So right before
Right before we stood up.
I just made eye contact with her and I asked her, please help my son.
Yeah.
Please meet with me. I need to help my son.
Yeah.
And I just said it straight to her and she looked at me and she did this little head twist and did this,
Yeah.
oh, I'm
Yeah.
so sorry.
Yeah.
And then she's
I
like,
remember that.
can I give you a hug? And it was just so shocking and the fact that the way she said it and
Yeah, it
then she
wasn't
just
empathetic.
no, it was more like
like,
whatever. Like
okay.
she didn't care. Like she didn't care.
Almost like, can I give you a hug is a nice way to segue out of, okay, I'm ready to leave.
Yeah. And then she just said, can I give you a hug? And didn't give me a chance to even respond.
Yeah.
Got up from her seat, walks around the table and jumped on me. And I literally like I'm like, wait, what? And
Yeah.
and as I get up, she just starts hugging me. And it was such a horrible thing,
Yeah.
I experienced. I
was
never
tight.
felt like so uncomfortable in a situation. Like, it was so ungenuine.
Yeah.
The fact of how she said, like, I'm sorry, she didn't care. And then on top of it, how she was hugging me, it was a squeeze. It was so
Yeah.
tight. Like she was taking all her anger against, like, what everything was going on with her on me. It hurt.
And it was
hurt.
extra
Aggressive?
awkward.
Yes.
Aggressive?
Yes.
It was so aggressive and awkward that me as the witness
Yes.
person who
It really
was there
felt like
with her,
that.
Yeah.
she was hugging Faith, and because I was like sort of just the witness, I was like the third party person, so I actually took a step back because she came and hugged Faith so quickly, and I was watching her give Faith a hug, and I could see Faith
I'm
like
like,
pulling
trying
back
to
out of this hug, and I was so unsure what to do because half of me was like, okay, she's giving her a hug, like was this good? Is this bad? Like, I don't know what's going on. But then you could see Faith try to pull him back, and I was like, should I go separate it? Like, I didn't even know what to do, and I was uncomfortable. And it was like, literally, as she's hugging Faith, she just stopped, and it was almost like, oh yeah, you're there. So, and she came at me and hugged me. was like,
She don't even
I don't
have like
want you.
a chance
pity
to
hug.
be like jumping. It's not a thing where like, oh, can I give you a hug? And you're like, yeah,
So
sure, let's hug.
awkward.
It wasn't that. It was
So uncomfortable.
jump on you and just squeeze you so tight, and it was.
It was really
And this is
uncomfortable.
what Minister, and it
And
happened
it
so
made us,
fast.
it made us feel that, that threatened feeling. Like it was just really aggressive. And then
Evan says, yes, but you can tell.
No,
she,
there's questions above.
Oh, there's questions above?
Yeah.
I
About
think
how we
Ford
think
is
of-
trying to put in a
The
bulldog.
questions was that how we feel about Todd
Smith.
Todd Smith, okay.
and Julie Dunlop.
All
Or
right.
have we met with any of them?
Have you met with Todd Smith or Julie?
Is it
No.
Not.
Yeah,
Still
we've seen them out and about.
Out and about.
Haven't you met with Jill?
Todd Smith.
That's not at the
The
web.
one
yeah,
we were talking to the other day.
No,
Amanda, didn't you met with Jill Dunlop? Isn't
I'm
she?
trying to remember.
she's a berry. She's for berry.
I think
Yeah,
Laura,
maybe for
Laura
Mary.
knows
I
her.
met, I
I
didn't
think
meet Jill
other
Dunlop.
people
I
who
met,
have come with us.
I met Andrea Kanjan.
Oh, okay.
We're getting close to an hour, so we should wind down soon. If anyone has a question for the chicks, please feel free to post. And you can also do it after the chat. I'm sure I'll tag them all, and I'm sure that they'll respond tonight or this weekend sometime. So the big guy, the premier.
That's me again.
So when you're
This guy.
in question period and the premier is being asked about the Ontario Autism Program, what was your sense of his responses?
He
Like,
never
what,
has a response.
he's never
He always
responded.
defers.
He always defers.
So you never heard him discuss?
Who was
The
the
issues.
person who reported him leaving from the Fort Pies?
Him?
Was
No.
it Sue?
Might have been
No,
someone
it
else.
was the staff.
It was the staff.
It's always been staff.
No staff person.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not likely that the premier will be at his
We
constituents'
never-
office.
We
Not
never
very
seen
often.
him.
No, it won't happen.
It's always
It's
staff.
regardless of the government.
I'm sorry for the people on his writing. You'll
Yeah.
never meet your MVP.
Have you ever seen him in the hallway?
Oh, yeah.
Did,
Yes.
did he
Many
recognize you? You've ever
Oh,
spoken
yeah.
to him?
Yes.
Oh, he
So
recognizes
what
us.
happened? What happened?
I've never had the pleasure of talking to him yet.
Yeah.
He never seems
Great
to
to meet
want to, even when I get a chance
Faith! Faith, you've spoken to the premier
Yes. At the
Okay.
cafeteria.
in the cafeteria.
Yeah.
Okay.
One day I took my kid, one of the days that I brought Jeremy with me, the question period. So we were at the cafeteria ready to leave, and as I turned around, I saw him taking pictures with kids in the hallway. And I said, well, he's taking pictures with kids. I have my kid. He can take a picture too. So I start walking, I just told my kid, Jeremy, come, let's go take a picture. And we just start going towards that court, and then, oh my God, I'm just making a mess of myself. So then I just told Jeremy, come, let's go take a picture. And then as we got close, you know, he kind of saw me, and he knows who I am. And
Everybody knows who Faith is.
yeah, people know me by name. And
Many of them.
and then as I, you know, I saw him, I just went to introduce myself straight on, and I said, hi, Ford, my name is Faith Munoz, you know, this is my kid, Jeremy, he has autism, I'm here every day, you know, and then my kid interrupted me, you know, which, in a second, you know, he interrupted me, he turned to him and he told Ford, are you the guy taking away my autism? Best moment. I was so proud of my kid right there. And then Ford didn't even know how to deal with my kid. He's like, nobody. I'm just doubling the funding. My kid doesn't understand what that is. And, you know, he doesn't know. He knows he's losing his therapy because I've been preparing him to the point where when there's the last day of therapy, he'll be okay with it, which is stupid. I shouldn't be telling my kid you cannot have therapy you need. But I'm preparing my kid. So he's like, no, I'm losing my therapy. My 6-year-old went to the premier and he told him, you're taking away my therapy. I was so proud. And then off of that, we got a card, and we also got invited to join a group of other autism stakeholders, the AU, to listen to the proposal to the premier.
And Jamie Connell.
Jamie Peddle was there too, yeah.
Tangerine says, I found Queen's Park very emotionally draining. I agree. You don't see me there often because it's too much for me.
See, I think it's not that
You know,
I was actually
it's too
just
much for
gonna
me.
say,
I'm with you, Tangerine. How do you make sure to self-care? I found Queen's Park to recover from. I think I found it hard to recover
I
from.
just go to Starbucks every time
You go to Starbucks and get
Well, you know,
Amy's our toughie, you know?
No,
You're our tough
I've
girl.
always loved politics. Always.
Yeah.
Like, I'm regrettably a Conservative Party member.
Not regrettably. The Ontario Autism Coalition is it is a nonpartisan group, and we are members of different parties. All of
No,
us.
the reason I say
I
regrettably
wasn't
is
telling you
because
to break
right
these
now,
down, but thank you.
I
feel
understand
ashamed.
that. But if you are still going to
Thank you.
be a
Thank
PC
you.
person, then you're going to demand that your people, that the people that you've elected, that you support, are going to do the right thing.
That's one of the reasons I feel like I
Yeah.
need to be there, because I'm part of the problem who put them there, and I feel like I need to hold them accountable as
You started that
Yeah.
as a part.
so. Anyway,
yeah.
I don't find it stressful in that
You don't
way.
find it stressful?
No, because I've been one of those geeks who would always sit there and watch.
Yeah.
Like,
Nobody. Am I the only one who like limps out of there?
I found
You know?
it mixed
hard
for me. Like, there were days where it was so emotionally taxing that I had drives back home. I would drive Faith and Amy all the time, but I'd have drives back home with Faith, and I remember there was one day I was just crying the whole way back home.
Yeah.
And she was the one who reminded me to take
Yeah.
care of myself. So there were days that were really, really hard. And then at the same time, I found the hard part sitting through question period itself. That was hard for me and really emotionally draining. But afterwards, I actually found, if anything, it was more motivational, and that kind of was a part of my self-care, because afterwards we would all go eat lunch together, we'd all go have Starbucks, or we'd go chit-chat, and we would vent about what we heard that day and what we're going to do about it. So there was a part of it that was draining, but then the self-care came right afterwards every time, where it was like, I remember saying to Amy once at Ford Fridays, like every time I get into a slump, I get very like introverted and say I'm not going to come out anymore. I think I need a break from protesting and stuff. And then I'll take that break, and I find I just get more and more sad and lonely and everything. And then one day Amy will reach out and go, "You coming to Ford Fridays?" And I go, "Yeah, okay, I'm coming." And I'll bring myself out there, and every time I end up coming there and I see everybody, I feel better. It's not I don't need that self-care in that sense to be, on my own, or go get my nails done, or go take care of myself that way. I actually find having that social group, having the OAC people to call on, having my friends that have now become my family to spend time with after something that hard, is what kind of is our self-care. It's like we
you have
leave
each
and we
other.
bring each other back up.
So you
Yeah.
asked me the question why
Yeah.
I went to QP
Yeah.
or Queen's Park or question period, whatever. And I answered, to put a face, whatever. But also, like, I met Faith that first day that we went to Queen's Park. Yes, we did. And then we met up at the rally, the big OAC one.
Yeah.
And then and then I helped to organize the protest of my local MPP. Whatever. And I asked Faith to join, and she did. And then Faith said, I'm going to Queen's Park. Do you want to join? And I said yes. So it was a little bit about like supporting each other, like not doing this alone, not being alone. So even, we'd go to Queen's Park, we would have that lunch, we would protest, we would get a drink, but yeah, like she came out when I said, "Do you want to come?" I came out when she asked me if I wanted to come.
So what do you know now that you didn't know before you started going to Queen's Park? Everything. What do you know now? What do you know now?
I
hadn't
know
even
less.
voted before.
You know less. Angela knows less.
The more every day goes on, I seem to know less and less.
Yeah.
That just because people have party affiliation doesn't mean they necessarily believe in what the party stands for or is doing.
Yes.
So not all of the MPPs on the side of the government are behind their own policies?
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
No.
And how do you know
Should
that?
we call
How do you
them?
know?
We've been
Should
to
we
meetings.
call them
Because
out?
the things that they
Sorry, we're
told
not.
us.
Talk to them.
So
in
what
the
have they
halls.
told you?
They
I'd say
understand.
there's an MPP who is a big advocate
There's
of
a few.
autism.
There's a
The
few.
one that I'm thinking of specifically, what happened yesterday, pretty much called what was going, like, didn't say the names or anything, because I doubt this person even knew that, but said this is what needs to happen, and, you know,
So he predicted the
splitting
cabinet
things up,
shuffle.
and,
He or she?
He or she predicted the
She.
cabinet.
well, it said that it needed to kind of be split up, and now Jill Dunlop she's the Associate Minister of Children and Women, and, you know, so it's been, there's a lot of the files have been split up.
Yeah.
So I find there are a lot of MPPs, and some that you, I guess, would even expect are a lot warmer to us.
They're warmer than
Yes.
you thought.
A lot warmer.
Yes.
And the thing is, though, it's once they got to know us. To
Yeah.
know us. When we were just there in the beginning, nobody really cared. And then as time went on, every single day, Monique Taylor would announce us. And
Yeah.
then
She
it's
would.
like
She would
they would
announce
just
like a list.
yeah, and they wouldn't even clap anymore because
Yeah.
they're just like, oh my god, there's stuff
There-
here.
there was-
Again.
And the very last day, she thanked us for our service to the people of Ontario. Like, it was very moving. I thought that was very, very.
Monique has done a lot of
I-
those.
I have to say specifically on the conservative side,
I
Missed
missed it.
I can't say whether they're for their own plan or not, because they haven't said that, but people who have been much warmer to me than I would have expected. Andrea Kanjan actually one day introduced me on the conservative side because there wasn't enough room on the opposition. And I had come out in the hallway and I was just asking anyone to sign a slip so I could get in, even if it was conservative side. And she managed to get me in, even on the opposition side, confront, security at that time and everything, get me in my proper seat, and then recognize that because no one had signed my slip for me, but the conservative side, that no one was going to introduce me. So when it came her time for introduction, she actually stood up and said, and I also noticed Amanda Moyer is here on the opposition side, welcome to your house. And I remember that being really momentous for
Welcome
me.
to your house.
Yeah.
A lot of
That's the
times people
thing.
say
That's
that.
the thing.
And I was amazed by it.
They don't say that to
Anyone
us.
is
They don't
welcome
say that
here.
to us. And that was really awesome. And I also find Jeremy Roberts to be extremely friendly with us. We had that one time that he,
I know that they're gonna.
we didn't have an
SOP.
escort. We didn't have Monique with us that day, and he wanted to give us the option to still stand around and stuff. And he basically came to security and said, "These people are all with me. I'll take them on."
Yeah, I remember with him. So
it's
he
one
took
for us.
over extra people so they could stay in the area.
So tonight or over the next few days, somebody may be scrolling through their computer and they're gonna come across this video. They might be an isolated parent, they might be an autistic self-advocate who feels helpless.
They should get out to protests, and if you're not in the Toronto area, start your own. This is a provincial problem. If you are in the Toronto area, get out to Ford Fridays. All we see are the same faces. We need to see some more.
It's not. I think it's about taking a step forward. And that's the hard part. Is you're
It's the
not
hardest
alone. That's the biggest thing. Is you're not alone. You may not know or understand what's happening, but by just taking a step forward and saying,
It's like a social
okay,
event. It's a work group.
how can I help? It's like there's that need of wanting to help or do something. Just come out.
Yeah.
Like, if it's not me, if it's not the people here, there's other people who join us, and you'll most likely meet someone that you probably be able to make a connection, or even maybe meet someone in your neighborhood.
We live like down the street from each other.
I didn't know.
Never knew.
No.
Neighbors.
No, yeah, and we only came together. Our kids were attending like the same
The same
therapy,
place.
and we had no idea about each other. So it just takes a step forward, come out. You're not alone. And a lot of people, I think, are kind of stepping a little bit back and trying to, you know, take a little more relaxed feel because of the 5-month break. But no, don't stop there. Keep
Now's the
calling
time
your
to
MPPs. This is the time for you to push it local. You know, go to your mayor, go to your council, ask questions.
MP.
Ask a
Election,
question.
the federal
That's
election.
it.
Yes.
Oh my- I was at my MP's office today.
Yeah.
Like,
I went to
voter
meet Shearer on the
MP
weekend and I
offices.
asked him. I met Shearer in the weekend. I went to a barbecue and I asked him, "Hi, my name is Faith Munoz and I am very forthcoming." And I asked him, "What is your plan to help kids with disabilities?" He had no answer except blaming Justin Trudeau. Then I asked him, "How are you planning to stop Doug Ford from hurting our families?" Again, he had no answer except blaming Kathleen Wayne. She's not in power anymore. Why are you blaming the past? Like, it's just take that step, ask a question. Even if you think, you know, you don't feel comfortable, send it via email. You know, just take a step.
I think it's important too because I remember the first step that I took into this whole thing. I never even voted before this.
You never voted.
So
Were you scared?
I didn't
I'm
know
gonna slap
what to
you
do.
when I hear that.
I know, I'm sorry.
I
I
vote
I
even
was
in
raised
municipal elections. I
very
never-
like whatever, you know, if you don't know who to vote for, just don't, you know, a kind of idea, and I just didn't think anything of it. And this year actually was the first year that I voted, and it wasn't conservative, but I just, and I didn't follow the politics at all after that. It was just like, this is something that you do because you live here, so you vote. But I didn't follow it until I had a child with autism and the government attacked my child with autism. Then it became my problem. And when that happened and I was scared and on my own and didn't know what to make of it, I ended up Googling, finding OAC page, and I looked up the names of the people who were running the group. And I remember I was telling you earlier, I saw Laura, I was like, oh, she's the president, I'm not gonna go there
She's
yet.
very scary.
So I was scared.
I would never approach Laura.
But as a person who's never met any of you guys before,
She was.
or even really like depending on where you are with your child's diagnosis emotionally and prepared to deal with all of the stuff yet, it's really hard to step out and call someone and say, I need this support right now. And I think the important thing to stress to people is how much that actually makes you stronger, because you think you don't have anybody to talk to. You don't have, you know, connections with your friends and your families anymore because you live a different style of life now. And then you end up calling in and I talked to you and I was amazed. You were so friendly, like right off the bat. And then I met Faith at question period, you know, and her and I friends right off the bat. And it's something that I hear really often at all of our socials is it's like you sit with these people and when you speak to each other, it's like we're all on the same wavelength. Like we're all like talking about the same things, going through the same struggles. We're all there for each other. And nobody here judges anything. Like we just had my son's birthday party that was all his autism specific friends. And it was, honest to God, the best day because we all feel the same way. We all connected that way. And so when you reach out to someone, even if it's not on the political side right now, like what I would be telling people is, even if you're not ready to do the political part, you just want to play a part in this or you want more information, you don't necessarily have to reach out to your MVP or go to QP or anything like that. Just go on the OAC page and say, you know, I want to chat with someone. Like any one of us in this video right now will say hands down, if someone PM'd you tonight and said, hey, what can I do? Or hey, can we chat? Or hey, I want to bet anything, we will all respond to you. So don't feel like you're taking that first step, you know, and feel nervous. Like, what if I get shot down? You're not going to get shot down.
Great advice.
We will not shoot
We
you
are
down.
respectful. We are like.
Well, speak for yourself.
Spicy Amy.
So let's wind down. One piece of advice for a hypothetical mom who's at home, who's crying, who's lonely, who feels helpless. Faith?
Oh, start by saying no. One thing, so for a mom who's alone,
You're not alone.
You're not alone, you know, and your struggles are real, your feelings are valid. Reach out. You know, there's help and there's hope. Even though it might not look or feel like it, reach out. Angela?
Yeah. I guess the same sentiment. It feels like you're alone, but you're not. And I know having a kid with a disability can be extremely isolating. I went for years thinking I was that awkward 13-year-old with no friends again.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't connect with the other parents of children my son's age, because they're doing their things and my son was never invited.
Yeah.
And therefore I wasn't invited.
Yeah.
But there's people out there that do understand. You just have to find them, and it's hard, but just put a message out on the OAC and people will respond. Because like right there, sorry, Laura just said we are family.
We are family. We are family.
Laura says all the time, like a club that no one chose to
Yeah.
sign up for, but once you're in it, you never want to leave.
Yes,
That's right.
Amy?
Basically the same thing. Like until I really got involved with this, I never realized what a close knit group of people the autism community was, and not just because ethically to me it feels right to advocate for human rights, but I mean these people are so good to each other, even people who don't know each other, and that's why to me it feels like, you know, if I'm there advocating for my daughter or my son, like I should be doing it for somebody else too,
Yeah.
because we're all such good friends to each other, even people that we don't actually know, we become so close to. So I think, you know, go on the computer, you know, even private message somebody if, you know, you want to develop a better relationship, get to know people better, ask, I'm sure they would go for coffee, so basically ask me to go for coffee, I said,
Yeah.
yes, no problem.
I actually met with a couple moms just like that. They were like feeling lonely and they reached out and I gone out for coffee, and it's just that simple connection where like someone who can listen, you know,
Yeah,
that's all it takes.
to go out to like one of the
Yeah.
social events or a protest alone, if you want to go for coffee with somebody first, so that you can go with somebody later, then
Yeah.
like, that's
Yeah.
a good idea too.
Final word?
It's actually, that advice is hard for me because I personally struggle with that all the time, even though I do have this group. So, I mean, I've struggled with depression since my teens. So it's hard, especially situationally when this stuff is really dragging you down, to pull yourself out of it. And I think the best thing I can say is to know that this group of people are not just a tight-knit community or just good friends. They really do become your family, where you're feeling you're missing things when you go to a party and feel like you're that awkward parent who doesn't fit in, and when you're out shopping and your kid melts down and you don't know what to do and everything. Those are the moments that isolate you. And when you come out to these groups and they know, you don't even have to say anything. Like I could sit there that day and look at Faith and feel what she was feeling and know. We've both been through those, and that's where that connection is. So when you reach out to this group, you build that connection, and then all those isolating moments become fewer and fewer, and you don't have to pull yourself out of bed every day. Because someone is there to help you get out of your bed. I mean, I've had many days now where Faith or Amy or Angela or you or Laura have literally called me on video and been like, what are you doing still in bed? Like, get out, and taking care of me that way. And I remember one interview we had one time where Faith was talking about something that really stuck out to me forever, and she said to the media that day, she said, this woman, her son is my son, and her son is my son, and her daughter is my daughter. This is my family, and we are here for each other, and we're fighting for your kids too, not just ours. And that's always stuck with me, and that's how I've kind of functioned so far on my self-care. Is when I have to wake up in the morning now, my responsibility isn't just I have to get out of bed for my kids. It's also I have to get out of bed for Eva. I have to get out of bed for Lisa, because they become my family.
It's turned out into that, and especially even for the families up north, that their voice might be mitigated based from the distance, but believe me, your echo is going through me and I'm getting it out.
It's coming out.
I go and I talk to them PPs, and I go into those meetings and I'm like, okay, you're hearing my story, but know that what you're doing, your choices is impacting me, but it's also affecting the people up north. And you need to listen to them, you need to meet with them.
And Canadians were always advocating
Yeah.
for
This woman gives up all of her independent meetings to the group. Every single time. I actually was just driving home with her the other day, and I was venting to her about how much I was like, I really appreciate you as a person and like a good friend now. And she was like, oh, really? I'm like, well, I've always been a feminist. And I always believed that women should raise each other up, not shoot each other down. And I was like, I've never had a friend until recently, with all of you guys actually, that I feel like, whenever Faith says something or Amy says something, like Angela says something, you guys are always like sticking up for each other. Faith gets a meeting and she's always like, great, I'll see you then with my friends. And whenever we go in, she's like, okay, I'm here to tell you my story, but she has a really important story to tell, so you need to listen to her today. And like, we just had a meeting with media the other day, and Faith walked up to that camera and she was like, I'm not talking. Today is Stacy's day.
Yeah.
Stacy's gonna talk.
And it's such a shame they didn't put it out.
And when
she gave them
Right?
such an amazing, this is one thing with the beginning, I hope they'll pay attention to this. You need to really have the message clear and not just use the ED bed to convenience for you. Because some of us have put our lives in the line. I'm not saying everyone should do this, but we put ourselves on the line and share stuff that are important, not just what the ED clip of me saying, no, I don't support this government. It's like other stuff that needs to be also passed out. And I hope that those messages get out. We have really strong advocates. And I think this is the part that's also very important is I went to school for social work, so I'm a very strong advocate. I think that's part of my voice. You're a statistician,
I'm a math person.
So her strength have become a very strong part for this group. We have Amy, who's very strong in politics, and she's like knows how to manage that. And we have Amanda. We all of us have something that makes us very strong. And even though we might not feel it, it's something. It's that's your voice. That's your way to put this out there.
So
find your thing.
The one thing I want to say, actually, I've been thinking about it, and it's something I struggle with, and it's for that isolated mom or dad or self-advocate, anybody. And this took me a long time. There is zero shame in asking for help.
Yep. Ask the question.
Ask for help. There's no shame in it. You're not weaker because of it.
And speaking to the dads, there's no shame in reaching out to the other men in this group and saying you want a connection with other dads. I do agree, other women, yes, as well, but I know there's a lot of men who need another guide, another dad going through the same thing to be able to relate to and be friends with. So there's absolutely nothing wrong either with the guys saying, I'm struggling with this, and I need a guy night too. Goes the same way.
So OAC, I give you the chicks.
And a hen.
Yeah. Not bad, eh? Not bad.
Cheers.
Thank you all for watching. We hope that you found that. Cheers to the chicks.
To all LCBO purchased booze.
To autistic self-advocates. To the children,
Right.
we are family. We are family. United. United. Good night. Cheers.
Good night.
That went so well. Yeah, it felt like having coffee. Like
That's
relaxing.
still on. That one's